at the Garden. Celtics home opener. Fun game, right? That was a fun
This,
game.
I mean, you always expect the first game at home to be kind of exciting, but this really felt. Obviously, it's not a playoff game, but it had that kind of energy out there and excitement, and frankly, the tightness throughout the course of the game. This was a good one. This was a really
Yeah.
good one.
Yeah, it was fun. And you could tell Celtics were into it. I don't think there's all like, oh, game 8 sort of vibes, but I mean, it's a familiar foe. You want to beat these guys. And like, you've got two things converging here. The Celtics showing up bigger, badder, tougher than ever, and Heat playing the role of the, did everyone forget about us sort of underdog? And I think both teams kind of used that a little bit tonight. I thought it was one really interesting thing. I'm blanking on the name just because it's been a long day for me. Golden State's guy who quit. What's his name? The guy, the GM. I just lost you. Are you muted?
Myers.
So he's on the halftime.
Yeah.
For ABC. And, he says like that thing that we've just kind of been talking about throughout. And I think this is what stands out the most to me. And I kind of tweeted to that effect as well. You can have players have bad nights all night. You can have players have stretches of bad play within the course of the game. You could literally have 3 starters have crap nights and you can still win a game. You can still win it easily even. That's not to say they won it easily tonight, and not to say everybody. I thought at points in the night, everybody in that starting lineup played outstanding basketball. They were phenomenal in stretches, and then they had some where it's like, okay, that wasn't great. That wasn't great. Doesn't matter. They just keep coming. All of a sudden, Brown, who started out not great, all of a sudden he heats up and he starts making buckets. Derrick White just took over the game in the fourth quarter. Porzingis missed a whole bunch of threes to start. Then he has a stretch of time where he's doing his thing. So, imperfect night from Tatum didn't matter. Holiday, I thought was phenomenal start to finish. I mean, there's just so much going on there, but like there was a lot of dog in them tonight too. You had a lot of plays. Like you never hear Spoelstra in an in-game interview say something like, yeah, they won all the 50-50 balls and that's how they got back in the game. And they did. The second chance points, just the chase down block from Derrick White, Drew Holiday coming blindside on Bam and snatching a rebound. They just did stuff like that all night long. It was really impressive to watch. Like it was a really just that's the kind of stuff where it's like, that seems lacking at times with this team. And so far through 2 games, not like that's there.
And the thing about it that really is impressive is that we're not talking about one guy that's bringing those intangibles to the game. I mean, you're talking about Derrick White, you're talking about Drew Holiday, you're talking about Jaylen Brown, who I thought did a really good job, was consistent defensively. Tyler Hero was torching pretty much everyone out there in the first half, and the Celtics were able to kind of put the muzzle on him for the most part in the second. Bam Adebayo, it was clear from the jump that Miami's plan was to go at Porzingis, and Bam, to his credit, was effective. I mean, he had like 8 points in the first like 4 or 5 minutes of the
Right.
game, but the Celtics were able to weather the storm. They were able to just find ways to not get as beat up as they were early on. And you look at the final numbers, the Celtics had 52 points in the paint. And the one guy that you mentioned earlier, and we'll talk more about him later, but I love what Drew Holiday does. I absolutely
It's
freaking love
unreal.
everything about this dude. I mean, he understands when to play bully ball, when to shoot the mid range, when to either spray the ball to someone who's open in the corner or take the three. And the thing about him, his emotional meter never changes. It's
Ever.
like he'll make a great freaking play, and there's no change. And
Yeah.
if you talk, and just kind of talking to him briefly before the game, he's just that guy. The pulse never fluctuates, and that's what you want if you're the Celtics. I mean, this is a guy that's going to be so important for this team down the road.
Yeah.
And tonight, even though he wasn't the guy that will get all the headlines, you go back and watch this game, you'll see he made so many game-winning type plays that
So
usually get
many.
overlooked.
And again, I know, like, for some reason, Bobby's taking a holiday like I've taken to Jaylen, and he's almost like looking for things to find wrong. I can't
I can't
see
wait to hear what he says tonight. I can't wait to hear what the hell he says tonight
I,
because
I can't find anything because it's like Of course, he makes some turnover. He turns the ball over sometimes. I mean,
That
so
would
does
be like
everybody.
99.9% of the guys who actually play in the NBA do that. So
That's
I
what they
can't.
do. That's what they do. I thought one of the key points to this game, and one of the things that swung it is they let the guards run the action more than you would see. They took the ball out of Tatum's hands in the fourth there, which I love because these are two. The great thing about these guys, and again, I feel bad because everything you say about Holiday sounds like Marcus Smart slander. But again, this is what I think I've been saying for years is Holiday's the guy everybody thought Smart or wanted Smart to be in terms of Smart can do great things, make great passes, make a ton of winning plays, but it's just the stuff in between that kills you. And it's just, you just feel like you're in good hands with Holiday all the time. In addition to just being such a ridiculous defender, the way he moves his feet, how active he is, how smart he is, switching on and off. I mean, that was one of the things that you were worried you'd lose with Smart as the quarterback of the defense. Holiday's got that down too. He knows exactly where he's supposed to be, where everyone's supposed to be, what he's supposed to do. He's just so crafty, but just offensively, the ball in his and Derrick White's hands, you just feel a little bit more confident that they're going to make the right read and make the right play and not force the issue. And I thought they both did an incredible job. And then just White friggin' lost his mind there in the fourth quarter and just became, top five Derrick, which was just, that's what happens. That's what we're saying at the top of the show. It can literally be anybody, any night. That's what I think you're going to see with the team. There's a lot of there's no bench. Yeah, there's no bench.
Yeah, but there's you've got six guys who can go out and get you 25 points, and no one will bat an eye.
But the point is, there's no bench, but you're going to have three starters on the floor all the time. And you're basically playing with like 5 all-star caliber players. 2 and 3 of them are on the court all the time. Which teams can boast that? It's not. I mean, it's not just depth. It's like superstar. I mean, these guys are just unreal right now. Not gonna say White's gonna play like this every night, but if White plays the way he played last year, or even levels up a little bit, you've just got so much talent here. It's really hard, like you need a lot of off nights, guys sitting or injuries or whatever down the stretch to fall off. The bench stuff, we'll talk about it more. It's slightly worrisome, but you're getting what you need. Like, you got plenty of what you needed out of O'Shea Brissett tonight. You got energy, you got rebounding, you got some defense. He kept balls alive. He made hustle plays. That's what you got out of him. I thought that was fine.
I thought he was huge for them in that stretch where they were down by as many as 13 in the first half, and O'Shea was huge in getting them back in the game. With and the thing that, and I tweeted about this, he's doing exactly what you're supposed to do when you don't know if you're going to play every night. When you get on the floor, you make your presence felt, doing whatever the hell you're supposed to be getting paid to do.
We call it the Neesmith.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like when Neesmith realized he wasn't going to be counted on as an offensive weapon, he just sacrificed his body and went out there and just played like a lunatic, and that's how he earned minutes, was just energy. That's what Brissett did tonight. He was all over the place. He was just
those two couple offensive rebounds he had within the first 90 seconds he was on the floor led to buckets for other guys, and then and the funny thing about that, and I don't know if people recognize this, but shortly after he did that, Tatum had an opportunity to just raise up for a shot, and he saw him cutting to the basket, threw him the ball, and he lost it out of bounds, but Tatum went back to him later on in the game for this basically the same play. And that's what tends to happen when guys recognize you're busting your ass out there doing a lot of the hustle plays. They're going to find a way to get you easy buckets because they know that you should be rewarded for what you're doing. You are sacrificing for the team, and they are going to in turn sacrifice some pretty good looks to get a great one for you.
Yep. And, generally speaking, I thought, we talked about how disjointed the offense looked on night one. I definitely thought they were more connected, particularly that stretch in the second quarter where the starters came in. That kind of switched the game. That little stretch, I think Al came in for Porzingis probably to save him from getting another foul for the last minute there. But really that whole back half of that second quarter where they went on that 16-4 run, I think it was 17-6 to end that quarter and kind of flip the game a little bit. That the starters, everything looked connected a lot more, the way they were moving the ball and looking for each other. Things like Porzingis, high screen, whipping out to Jaylen Brown. Porzingis gets doubled, whips it out to Brown in the corner for three. That's how you kind of figure the design is going to be. They were getting into their sets. If Miami was doubling, they were quick to recognize it and get out of it and find the open guy. And that's the thing that you have here is you got to be, it's a pick your poison sort of scenario with the defense. And if they're like looking for the open guy or looking for the matchup and moving it quick, it's really hard to defend them.
It is. I mean, and I think that's going to be the challenge that everyone is going to have when they watch the film of this team. And one thing that the Celtics, I think, is going to be just an absolute killer scenario for them is when they run high pick and roll action with Tatum and Porzingis. I didn't think they ran a ton of that tonight. And my thinking is this: if they're able to beat a team in Miami, looking at this team now, that they're going to be pretty good. I don't think they're going to be like title contending good, but they're not. They have not fallen off nearly as far as people think. The kid Drew Smith from Missouri is a hell of a shooter. Has an ugly as hell form on his shot, but damn it goes down. And they have guys that are going to. Again, this is such a Miami Heat kind of team. Not thought of to be that good, as you pointed out earlier, John. Kind of coming in with a little chip on their shoulder. Everyone thinks that basically they're going to suck all season. That's not going to be the case. They're going to be competitive. They're going to be scrappy. But this was a game that, again, as you look at what the Celtics are able to do, it's clear as day that the Celtics are the superior team. And if we're talking best of 7 series, it really shouldn't be that close of a series. Boston.
Don't say it.
Damn it, John.
I was just about to say.
You don't want to.
I was just about to say, because Bobby's going to come on here, and another one of his agendas is this anti-Heat
Celtics
bias.
in 4. That'll be Bobby.
Yeah,
Celtics in 4.
I'm really not afraid of this team. I really don't think much of them. I'm saying it now. I don't care if 5 of them are out with injuries. I want nothing to do with this team in the playoffs. If you're gonna position yourself in the Celtics late in the season to make sure. Check where your seating is. Just stay out of Miami's bracket at least till the conference finals. I don't want to deal with them. I don't care. Jimmy Butler didn't even show up tonight. He's regular season Jimmy. I'll get there when I get there. And no Caleb Martin, no Celtics killer Caleb Martin.
Right. And your point about Jimmy was the last one literally to show up for the game. Like me and a former colleague of ours. Yeah, me and a former colleague of ours, Barry Alley, we were just kind of basically, staking out, waiting for Jimmy to come. And he comes strolling in there a few minutes before Paul Pierce came strolling in there. But Paul has a reason to come in late. He's not playing. But listen, Jimmy, as you know, and we all know this, Jimmy, his clock doesn't start ticking until you get to like March, April, May. That's when he's locked into doing what he does. And you're right. He didn't really seem all that engaged in this game. He had some stretches there where he found himself matched up against Sam Hauser, and then he became a little activated. But for the most part, he was just kind of cool breezing this one out, which if you're the Celtics, you have to make sure you take advantage of these type of games because you are trying to stack wins up however the hell they come. You want to have every advantage possible once you get to the postseason because you never know when you're going to need that extra game at home against a team that's giving you a tough go at things. In Miami, it will be one of those teams.
Yeah, you want to stack wins at home, and you want to also, while you're here and you're it's the beginning of the year and you have everybody available before bumps and bruises start or anything else, kind of kicks in. You want to get on the same page here with one another. So this is a good opportunity in the early going to really just figure out the rhythm here for Joe to work on whatever rotations and find his guys and what he's going to do.
Right.
And I didn't mind it. I didn't mind the contributions they got from the bench at all. I thought Pritchard gave what you needed for the short period he was in. I think Al didn't hit his shots tonight, but he still did other things. And again,
it's always rebounding night for him.
Good rebounding night. It's always valuable to have that there, like when Porzingis goes down, he was in the foul trouble there. I think once again against a team like Miami that's really only going to play a single big all night long, you obviously don't need to go to Cornette or another big or Queta or whatever you have there. So that gives you more options in terms of who you can bring in there. And that's what they did tonight. You knew this wasn't going to be a Cornette game. I was just curious who it was going to be, and it ended up being Brissett coming off the bench. You might see Stevens as well get a look. So, they'll work it through. I think, as I said, is among my preseason predictions was, I don't know if Hauser's going to last long in this rotation as a staple, because I just, it's it's not a knock. They don't need that as much. They need other things from the bench guys. They don't need the scoring. If you're going to have multiple starters out there who can create their own offense, you don't need it as much. So I'm not really sure that's going to be his thing.
Well, it's not even so much that, John. It's the fact that he's not doing what he's supposed to be out there to do.
When he doesn't hit the shots, then it's pointless, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that's where he's at right now. I mean, he has a very singular role because his game is built around one thing, and that is knocking down shots. With Brissett, Brissett shooting the ball, his numbers are pretty good, but Brissett understands that he has to be a high energy guy out of the dirty work. When you start looking at their bench, guys, I think, have a very clear understanding of when they get into the game, what they need to do to stay in the game. Yeah. And Sam knows what he's supposed to do, but he's just not doing it.
Right.
Not nearly well enough to where you can justify keeping him on the floor, because the guy that we keep talking about, who we haven't yet to see really out there, is Lamar Stevens. I think once he gets in some semblance of playing with some regularity, he ain't leaving that rotation.
Really?
I mean, he's going to be a guy that they are going to they're going to have trouble keeping him out of lineup, because the thing that he does at an exceptionally high level is he's a good wing defender. You look around the Eastern Conference, what does every team want to have coming off their bench? A guy that can be an elite defender at that wing position. And as we all know, they are going to have more than enough offensive firepower surrounding him to where he's not going to be a huge defensive liability. And it's not like you're going to be looking for him to play 25, 30 minutes a game. If he can give you 10 to 15 really good minutes, play great defense, and you've got a Tatum, Brown, maybe Porzingis out there, or maybe Derrick White, you're going to be okay with him, because he's going to take a lot of pressure off some of those guys who they won't have to defend the best wing player out there. So I just think that he's a guy that once he gets an opportunity to get out there on the floor, I think he's going to do exactly what we saw Brissett do tonight, and that is make the most of that opportunity and force them to think long and hard about whether is this just going to be a every now and then throw you out there, or maybe we need to look at this more closely to see if we can get this with some kind of consistency.
Right.
That's what you want.
Yep.
That's what you want.
That's what you want. So, I mean, again, that stuff is working itself out, and it's nice to stack wins while you're kind of figuring stuff out, which is what they did so far. But, let's go to Mr. Player of the Game, and let's talk a little bit about D. White. It's not that Derrick White's not capable of doing what he did tonight, Sherrod. It's that it's almost like when you're surrounded by that much talent, you almost feel guilty sometimes to shoot. Like there was one moment Pritchard had just shot and made a three, and the next time he had the ball, his instinct was I should shoot this one too, and then he's like, but I'm not supposed to, am I? Like, I'm not supposed to just come in here and just start chucking. And he did, and he circled back and he kicked it out to Hauser, and they kind of spun their wheels for a little bit. But the right play actually was for him to shoot on that next possession as well. So you're Derrick White, and you're looking around and you're like, there's Porzingis, there's Brown, and there's Tatum, but I'm just going to friggin' go. Yeah, or the second it hits my hands, I'm shooting. That's like the confidence of like a dead-eye scorer. And it also takes some balls to do that, because you start bricking. I mean, I guess, you get on a roll, you just keep going until you stop here, but that's not how he plays. He looks for his offense all the time. He shook off Tatum a couple of times on some loose balls, got in his hands. Tatum was in the corner. He could have kicked it to him. He's like, nope, I'm going to go and I'm going to do my thing and, take it to the basket. And he finished a couple of times. Takes a lot of confidence to be able to play that way with, with all that this team has going for it.
Yeah, it does. And the thing that I think is getting a better pulse for, a better feel for, is not only recognizing his mismatches, but having the confidence to take advantage of them. When he has Tyler Hero on him, he can pretty much get to the cup at will. When he's got Kyle Lowry on him, he can pretty much get to where he wanted to. And having guys around you who are encouraging you to take those shots, to take that guy on the block, Derrick, again, I think that's what we see often with him, is that when he has it rolling, it's almost like Tatum has to say, okay, look, I can get 25 points any day of the week. It's your night. You keep rolling. And so I think that's the unique thing about Derrick White. He's a guy that has the ability, can go out there and get you 25 on any given night. if he is locked in and wants to be that type of aggressive scorer. And after he knocked down a couple of shots in the fourth, he just kept it rolling.
Yep.
And I was pleasantly surprised at how he recognized that I've got it going on, but let me see if Jaylen can get it going on, because it was almost like they had a relay where he scored the first 9 points, then Jaylen started scoring some buckets, and then down the stretch, it was basically like a jambalaya pot of buckets where Tatum would get a little here, Drew Holiday would get something here, and Brown would get his, and that's how this team is really scary. Because even when one or two guys have it rolling, you can't sleep when the other guys on the floor with them. They
Right. So
can easily.
exactly, it came in waves. That's what was interesting here is it really did. There were different hot hands at different times, and that's what like most teams can't do. And that's what happened tonight. Exactly that. Who saw Jaylen Brown coming in with 27 points the way he started the night? He was 6 of 15 at one point with 4 turnovers, and then everything kind of changed for him after that. Tatum kind of got a little cold. He was, I think, forcing a little bit. He was, launching threes. I didn't think he was playing. I didn't think offensively he was playing within the rhythm. He did it sometimes in spurts. He only got to the line 3 times. And you could question whether there was contact on a couple of plays. He didn't get the call. That happens to him from time to time. But then the other guys just kind of stepped it up and picked up. And as you said, Jaylen Brown, and then Porzingis started to heat up, hit a couple of shots too. So yeah, it just comes in waves. But did you see Jaylen the way he started here? And again, he was 6 of 15. He finished 5 of 7 there. He hit his threes. He had that big pull up 3, top of the key. There in the fourth quarter, he was driving aggressively. He had a really nice finish to his left. I know, obviously, that's an area of his game that people closely monitor. His ability not to go left, to maintain possession of the ball going left, and to finish with his left. Tatum, I think, was 0 for 3 or 0 for 4 going to his left tonight. I was kind of paying attention. Same sort of stuff. He's not going as strong there. So again, area of development for him, but there were a couple of times he did play through contact, and I thought that was really good, a nice baseline move. So, you're still seeing a little of everything here. But did you see? I mean, this was one of those games where it was shaping up to be like, oh no, Jaylen, another one of these. Like, the rhetoric would really start to heat up if he had another dud, and it was shaping
Yeah.
that way. As we said, he had those 4 turnovers, and it was 6 out of 15. But then he got it going with rebounding. He got it going with energy, rebounding,
Right.
the steals, and it kind of turned his night around.
And that's what he has to do, regardless of whether shots are going down or not. He has to play with high energy because he's one of the most athletic, if not the most athletic player on his roster. And he needs to be comfortable and confident and consistent with using that skill set that he has to be an impact player, even on nights when his shot isn't falling. I thought he did a really good job of bouncing back after a kind of a shaky start with the turnovers. But the stuff that he did in the second half is stuff that Jaylen Brown has the ability to do consistently. I mean, this is a guy that was all NBA just a year ago. So it's not like we're talking about a guy that teams don't know can be a difference maker, and a guy that his teammates and his coaching staff doesn't know can be a difference maker. It's just a matter of him being as consistent as he can with it, and understanding that he doesn't have to make an impact the same way at night in and night out. I thought, again, this was a game where his energy, John, more than anything else,
Yep.
was what kind of galvanize these guys going. I mean, one of the best plays he made was, and it was just like really has a play in the second quarter where he got that steal on the inbounds for the dunk that put him up by 2 points. That's a play that Jaylen most nights would have just simply gone back down court and got ready to play defense, but he just kind of hovered, smart enough to know that I might be able to make a play here, and he just timed it perfectly. The ball was thrown in bounds as soon as he made a break for it, and there you go. You got an easy bucket.
That's what happens. It all worked out, but again, it's early. But when everybody's scoring high double digits, you're not going to have a lot of people like left wanting here. Again, looking at the box score: 22 for Tatum, 17 Porzingis, 17 Holiday, 28 White, 27 Brown. That's kind of what you're going to expect it's going to look like. That like it's just going to. I don't think you're going to have a lot of 30, 35 and 8 games. Like I think that's like you have to embrace the, hey, he had the hot hand tonight and he got some more looks. And then tomorrow it was, the next day it was me and such and such. I don't think it's one of those like, you got to get Tatum his 20 shots. You got to get Brown his 20 shots or else they're not going to blah, blah, blah. You just got to kind of just roll the ball out there and see where it goes. And like, these are again, you want to see a little bit more from your bench, but these are the type of box scores I think you're going to see a lot. Nights where it's a lot of 15, 16, 17, 18 from everybody up and down because, they're sharing the ball and taking turns and different guys are getting hot at different times. So, again, all in all, I think like a big uptick, at least offensively, over what we saw on night one against a team that's historically tougher to play against defensively. And, you've got, Spo finds ways to give them fits. I don't think Spo had answers for anything the Celtics were doing tonight. I mean, Miami doesn't shoot threes the way that they were. In the first half, they were just knocking down shots, contested shots, whatever. This game probably wouldn't have been as close.
Yeah, and Al missed a few shots that he would normally make as well. But this is when you look at this team, this is why this team is better than the team we saw a year ago. They
so much
have
better.
They have so many guys that can just absolutely take over a game for 8, 9, 10-minute stretch. And literally the guy doing that could have been 2 for 10 at the start the game. And then just have a 6-7 minute stretch where he's the best player on the floor. And they've got more guys that can do that now than they did a year ago. And Derrick White is certainly one of them. Jaylen Brown, another one, all NBA guy. And Tatum is Tatum. And that is why I'm more bullish than I usually am about this team, about how far they can go.
Yeah, and again, I'm with you. It's I said it unequivocally. More talent than any team since 2008, and I don't think it's particularly close. In terms of that first six there, and certainly the starting lineup. I mean, it's a ridiculous start. It's a ridiculous starting lineup in today's NBA. It's ridiculous to have that much talent in your starting lineup. I don't think people fully grasp it. It's almost like you're trying to build that perfect fantasy team where you nail the draft and you can put wide receiver ones and RB ones at every single slot. Like it's almost that. Like it's a ridiculous starting lineup for today's NBA to have that here, because again, you've got White, who's a bit of a steal and playing probably well beyond the money that he's currently making. Porzingis takes what he takes, to extend here. It's not going to be this way for long because eventually the bill's going to come due. But I mean, you shouldn't be able to put together this type of team in today's NBA. It's a ridiculous starting five right now. So, enjoy it as they gel. I think it's fun, but I mean, again, that's the point, is like, there's no thing that happens here short of a championship that's acceptable, for this team that they've assembled here. And I think they all know it. We're going to talk real quick about FanDuel. We want to let you know about this, obviously, with the NBA and NHL underway. You can check out FanDuel. It's also the official partner of the NFL, the official wagering partner of CLNS Media Network. Take advantage of the special deal here. Get 200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Visit fanduel.com/Boston to take advantage of that offer. Again, super easy to download. I haven't looked at the Pats spread in a while. Sherrod, do you think there's any shot here?
What?
I don't know.
Oh, gosh. Oh, so? No. I'm just gonna put the cookies on the bottom shelf. Hell no.
Where are we at? Let me see what the latest here is. It's still 9.5. It's still opened at 12.5, down to 10.5 after the Patriots beat the Bills. Now it's at 9. Now it's at 9.5, and it's holding steady there. I think this is a classic trap. I'm just telling you guys.
It feels like a trap, John.
It's a trap. They know what they're doing. But anyway, you think you're smart? Give it a shot. go to fanduel.com/Boston, sign up. Or what you can do is take advantage of this other sponsor of ours called Odds Are. Go to oddsr.com/Celtics. They're going to tell you what to bet on. They're going to use AI and machine learning to kind of crunch all of the numbers and tell you what the smart bets are. Green means go, yellow means do it if you want, red means do not do it. So all you have to do is go in there and they will tell you, hey, this is where we think the smart money is. I would put your money here. Oddsr.com/Celtics. Download the app. You get a 30-day free trial. It's definitely worth trying out. If you do have a FanDuel membership or you go sign up, might as well check out OddsR 30-day free membership when you download the app at oddsr.com/Celtics. Moving on here, Sherrod, and again, we've kind of gone around the horn here in what we've got. I know, this is something Bobby talked about on our text thread. And again, it's more a Bobby issue than anything else, but the single big versus the double big, and then when you need to do it and when you don't. And then you have someone like Bam, guy like Bam. Look, there's going to be guys who are going to be difficult matchups for Porzingis. You're going to have guys that have too much beef, or you have a guy like Bam who's a little bit more athletic and he can get to his spot. He got Porzingis off his feet. Porzingis can't move laterally as well, so when Bam would get it at the elbow or up high a little bit and try to drive, Porzingis can't slide and stay with him. So he kind of had him in a blender a couple times and got him in some foul trouble. So what? Like that's kind of my thinking is that's going to happen, right? Like you can't be perfect everywhere, and this is one of those situations where, that was a matchup that I think Miami recognized that they kind of had on their side.
Yeah, and they went at it,
and it wasn't
jump.
dominant, but they went at him. They were like, we're gonna go for it here, and they did.
Yeah, and that was, I mean, again, that's just Spo being Spo. That's just a smart coaching decision that he made there. But the thing that I like about the way Porzingis responded was he didn't allow those early, just basically getting his ass kicked moments, get him down.
At all. Well, he got the tee, but that was it. He was mad at himself a little.
Yeah, right, and that the team, it was more of his own internal frustration than anything else. So I like the way he was able to fight back, and he made some good plays at the defensive end of the floor. The thing that I've been most impressed about with him is just the consistency in which he contests shots at the rim. He's not gonna. I don't think even though he's ranked among the top 10 in block shots per game for like the last 4 or 5 years, he's been consistent with that. He's not viewed as a major shot blocker. When I've watched him play, he's a guy that seems to be more of a shot block spurt kind of guy, where he'll have 4 or 5 games where he's just really dominant in that regard, and then he'll have 5 or 6 games where he's nowhere to be found. But what I am seeing consistent from him is the ability to contest shots, not only of the guys that he's guarding, but also of the guys that are getting in the paint that he's supposed to be patrolling. I thought in the second half he did a much better job of contesting shots that Bam was taking. And not a surprise, Bam wasn't nearly as dominant. That's something that, again, he's going to be a work in progress for these guys all season long, becoming that defensive presence that they're going to need from him. For Al Horford, I think Al understands that there's a pretty good likelihood that I'm going to get on the floor early because he's going to pick up a couple of fouls and they're going to need me to be a defensive presence. So this was, again, I think this is a really good game for Porzingis, showing the ability to bounce back from a rough start, whereas in New York, he just kind of had it cooking from the jump.
And that's the thing is, again, it's like, the reason I'm the biggest advocate for not doing the double big that often is to be able to have Al come in and fill in for Porzingis rather than playing them together and playing them both tons of minutes. Porzingis with the 30 minutes tonight, largely because of the foul trouble, and Al at 25. I can live with that split, and a little bit of overlap if you need it. But again, I mean, how often do you need to go double big against someone's bench? I can understand a couple of times if you're getting beat up on the glass for some reason, certain teams where you might feel you got to lean on it a little bit more. But I mean, in today's NBA, with the length and the strength that they have everywhere, 2 big guards, 2 extremely long wings, I just don't think that you need it. I don't understand why you need it, or why so badly, or why you would want to do it. So again, against a team like Miami, it makes perfect sense that they would not go there.
No, it's a great luxury to have, to know that you can go that route if you need to. But that's the question: how often do you really need to do that? Uh, I'm with you on the Al coming off the bench scenario. I think Al understands that that's what they need from him. They don't need him to be a starter. They really don't. And if he is true to his, what he says about wanting to win a championship, then he'll do what the hell has to be done to do that. And for this team to be successful, Al coming off the bench is the best scenario for both him, for his own longevity in this league, and for the team overall. And so they're still figuring out how to make that work. But I thought this was a definite step in the right direction. He's got to make some shots. He needs to do better in that regard. But other than that, this was the kind of game you're going to need from him coming off the bench.
Yeah, totally. And hold on one second. I'm trying to get Joe Mazzulla post game here talking about Derrick White. Just give me 1 second. I'll load that up. But yeah, I liked Al, what he did there. When he's knocking down shots, obviously even better. But gave the game exactly what it needed here, which was a little bit of relief.
Yeah, Joe did too. Joe, this was a much better game, I thought, from an X's and O's lineup matchup type situation than the Knicks game. This was a good one for Joe.
I mean, how much of that is just basically his decision to either to play Cornette or not play Cornette?
Facts. I mean, when Luke did not get in the first half, I'm thinking like this is going to be a good coaching game for Joe. Luke, you just don't need him. And even when you think you do need him, do you really, really need him?
I don't know. I'm not really sure. Here's, as we said, Derrick White was definitely the guy tonight, the player of the game. The way he took over that fourth quarter, I think it was 8 straight points at one point, and just hitting threes, and the blocks and the defense. I mean, just legit everywhere. 5 of 7 from 3, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 blocks. Absolute animal. Here's Joe Mazzulla gushing about D. White after the game.
Like the plays he made tonight were sick. Like they were just sick plays, and like there's no word you can describe it. And I thought it was that's just what he does, regardless of, like you said, he has the humility to do what's best for the team. And when his number is called, he shows up regardless of what's happened. And that's big for us. But each guy out there today, made tough plays. And I think the cool thing is we can get so much better tactically on both ends of the floor. But as long as we do it together and do it with toughness, we got a chance.
There it is. Who else got a chance? Josue.
Facts, my dude.
Make an impact here. Yeah, jump on in, buddy.
I don't know if you saw me cracking up there when you guys were talking about the Luke Cornette thing, because literally, and you guys could easily see this happening, but Brissett grabbed, I think, his 3rd offensive rebound, and I turned to
2 minutes.
Yeah, in 2 minutes, I turned to Bob and I go, and that's why Luke might have some trouble, getting playing time this year, because guys like that, man, I'm finally starting to understand this whole what was it that Joe Mazzulla called it? Start by committee. I don't think he meant it in that way. I think he meant it as anybody has a chance to have a big game. So, the way the game ends is what he's focused on, because who's going to be the guy that he has to say, all right, you've been playing great, but you're going to have to sit. You know what I mean? Because in my mind, I take it as throughout training camp, he saw so many options. He saw so many guys that are all committed to defense. And like he said right after this game, it starts with Tatum and Brown. I mean, look at Jaylen Brown, the effort he's putting towards on that end of the floor. I mean, it just changes everything. And obviously that stuff is, it's contagious and it sends the right message. But when you have guys like Jrue Holiday and Derrick White, I mean, they're already programmed in that sense. But it's
they're
the other
lunatics.
Right. Exactly. That's a good way to put it. And it's just, it's a culture building thing, right? And you're seeing that. And Joe doesn't want to get too ahead of himself, but obviously he's impressed with what he saw. But he's like, listen, guys, it's game 2. I mean, we need to. This has to be consistent, and that was always a big issue with this team last year. But it's obviously a start in the right direction.
And that's what we said, Josue. I thought that's what we liked most was Brown. I think both Brown and Tatum's tendencies when things aren't going well is to try to shoot their way out of it. And that's what they've always done in the past. And if it works, great. But when it doesn't, then there would be the slumping, sagging shoulders, and then the not committing to defense because you're in your own head and you're bummed out. And it's the opposite that needs to happen. Jaylen Brown's game turned around tonight with energy, not with he was coming up, he was bricking threes and coming up short on everything in the lane, and he was turning the ball over. He was not flowing offensively at all, and he completely turned his night around with energy.
You know what, too? I'll take it a step further, too. And again, this isn't a knock, right? I'm just talking about with the culture. This is just who they were, right? After those two guys, typically, right, last year when they didn't have it, who was the third guy that would say, okay, guys, you guys don't want to do it? I will. It was Marcus. Now, that didn't always take away from his defense, but it was part of their culture. That's just what the offense did. I mean, when Tatum and Brown didn't have it, everyone was kind of shy because Derrick White wasn't that guy to be like, hey, give me the ball, I'm going to take care of things. So it would be Marcus. And I felt like it was maybe there was a way to stop that pattern, but now that you see what this team looks like now, you see those big, huge differences that teams like the Miami Heat take advantage of, right? And they did a really good job, too, in getting Kristaps Porzingis out of the game. They did a really good job in forcing Joe Mazzulla to say, you know what, Pritchard, this is not going to be your night tonight. I want you to have a seat. Because the moment those guys checked in, or maybe not, the moment Pritchard checked in, anybody who could get a switch on him, they had him down low for a mismatch, right? And then in the second half, watching Kristaps Porzingis play out there with 4 fouls, Bam Adebayo essentially did the same thing, right? Took him to the block, just kept trying to get him to foul. I even thought they took a step further, and sometimes he would bring the ball up so that Porzingis had to go guard him. And then Mazzulla made the switch of having Jaylen guard him, but Miami would find a way to get that mismatch either way. But then Al Horford checks in, he's able to close things out. I mean, that's something I think that could happen throughout the season naturally, organically, right? Not with Porzingis having to be in foul trouble, but obviously, that was the case tonight. But that's the type of thing that I think can happen again, throughout the season. If Porzingis, there's some kind of mismatch or some kind of issue there, you can always have Al come off the bench. He's going to give you that energy. We're seeing that in the first 2 examples. The second he comes in, he's making a play.
Yeah, I think and there's a tendency among fans, and again, we were even talking about it on our thread during the game. Early on, things aren't looking good in the first quarter, and I'm not slandering Bobby here, but Bobby's like, hey, they're going to have a trouble with, I could see them having trouble against this sort of lineup, and like my response is, you got to look at it at the flip side. Every single team will have problems with the Celtics lineup every night. Yeah. Like, don't worry about what you can't do. Look at what you can do relative to what other teams are able to do, right. Either to you or to stop you. It's very little. Like, what team is equipped to be able to handle this Celtic starting lineup? No one. They're just going to do their best. They're going to slug it out. But nobody's like, every night it's like, how are we going to deal with blank? It's really, really, really a problem. And that's the thing is, like, in a war of attrition, you're just eventually going to wear a lot of teams out where it's like, well, we were able to take Tatum away, but this guy went off and this guy went off and this guy went off. I mean, I was saying with Sherrod,
Derrick White almost had 30 points.
It's a legit insane starting lineup for today's NBA to have that much talent everywhere. And then you have a guy like Derrick White going off for 28, and it not being like, this wasn't like the Kelly Olynyk game, where it's like,
get out the way, give him the ball, right?
Yeah,
right.
It's like, how did that happen? Derrick White absolutely can do this, and that's what's bananas with this team.
Yeah, no question.
It is. Again, we go back to this team. How do you match up against this team, knowing that they've got guys that can have really, really amazingly awesome games and do that routinely? It's not like, man, he just had it going this night. No, that's just kind of what he does most nights when he gets a decent amount of shots. The one thing that I'm still when Joe talks about, still got room to grow, that kind of stuff, I still think the defense needs to get better. The defense, Miami doesn't have a lot of firepower, and so your defense will probably look better against them than it probably is. I want to see them when they're playing teams that have 2, 3, 4 guys potentially who can go out there and get you 20. How are they going to defend that? Luke is a guy not Luke. Porzingis is a guy that like really – Nah, I got lemon squares on my mind. My bad. No, the thing about Porzingis is that I'm curious to see how he adapts his game defensively as he has to deal with different types of bigs. Because against the big, strong, bulky guys, I love what he can do. But against athletes like Bam, ooh, I don't know. I don't know if that's a good matchup for him. Actually, I know it's not a good matchup for him. But can he do enough to justify being on the floor for extended periods of time, which is what you want? Because, he fouled out tonight with about 3 minutes to go. And that's, you don't want to see that. But my concern is that when they're playing athletic bigs like Bam, we may see more of this, where he's in foul trouble or he's on the bench or he fouls out with time on the clock. So that's an area that I'm somewhat concerned about them defensively, particularly with Porzingis.
Sherrod, he's doing his best. I'm just kidding. No, you're right. I just think Bam, he had that quick first step going more in the second half. He adjusted, but yeah, it's a good point. The Denver Nuggets, the teams like the Phoenix Suns, I think could obviously offer mismatches and sort of put Porzingis in that tough spot, especially late in the fourth quarter. So no, that's a really good point. But I just think when you have everybody on the same page and same focus defensively, it helps. I just think the Miami Heat did a really good job of Bam, I should say, did a terrific job of just getting the most
chat here,
in the most for Porzingis.
Real quick, Rob couldn't handle Bam. He didn't have the discipline. He would leave his feet. It's just he didn't have the discipline to be able to play Bam, to extend out on him, to stop him from hitting those free throw jumpers. He would kill the Celtics with those. Celtics play and drop and just giving him friggin' free throws. They did that all series last time. There's no, Porzingis did his best. It's not going to happen. It's the same thing when we talk about well, who's going to stop Embiid? Literally no one alive. God. No one. Why are we talking about it? No one can stop him. There's nobody who can stop, and so there's sometimes you're just going to have matchups that are tougher and you just live with that. It's not the end of the world. Nobody can do everything. And so, Porzingis can do some stuff well, and he can stay home and he can block shots and he can stay competitive there, but it's going to be tough. Some matchups are going to be tougher.
The big thing for him, though, John, is just figuring out a way to stay on the floor. It's one thing to go out there and get your ass kicked.
He knew it. That's why he was mad.
Yeah. And again, you're right. No one is going to completely shut down guys like Bam, but find a way to keep your ass on the floor. Find a way to contest shots and not just pick up foul after foul after foul. He's got to be smarter about that stuff.
He knew it. You could tell his frustration wasn't with the calls. It was he's like, stay on your feet. Don't go for that fake.
It's like I know better than to do that.
Yeah. He's like, come on. I know, how to play it straight up, and he wasn't, he was, and they were fouls that weren't even good fouls.
Like that last one.
But it wasn't like a mugging where I'm just not going to let him score. He beat me. It was I just got to stay disciplined to not let him rub off against me here and blah, blah, blah. It was just ticky-tack stuff that he just, he could have avoided a few of those. And I think that's what he was getting annoyed with there. So yeah, that's part of it is just he's 7'3". He's not, he doesn't have the lateral mobility of someone as athletic as Bam. So he's going to, be trailing him sometimes. He's just got to use his length to recover and just try to play it clean. And, he had a rough couple possessions there, but again, it was far from a nightmare.
Well, speaking of rough couple possessions, I can't remember who had the preseason prediction about Sam Hauser out of the rotation by December. Was that you, Zannis? Man,
it's looking pretty good right now.
That's looking like Nostradamus right now.
I had two. First of all, one was the Hauser, and again, I say this with no malice because I wanted to play him last year because I thought they needed the shooting badly. I just think they need the energy guys a little bit more this year, and the shooting they don't need as much because the top six can all shoot. And that wasn't.
You don't have to worry about that from him getting shooting because he's not giving him that.
So right now he's not giving it to him even when he's out there. But the other is I'd rather just have some energy guys, and that's what you got out of Brissett. My second one was the Cornet more DNP CDs than games played.
Ooh.
I'm back to even with that. Bobby's 50 games for Holiday to start. was honestly the worst prediction anyone's ever made on our show. That one's already close to toast. But
other than the fact that he's basically played more games than that for damn near the last decade.
Yeah. But the problem with Hauser is the faith. He can only do what he's going to do. He's out there for very little time. They just don't have enough faith to play him long minutes. He got out there. He got 2 shots. He made one of them on that was that offensive rebound. Maybe was that Brissett? I forget what it was.
I think that was Brissett that set that up.
Okay. Yeah. Which was great. And that's it. That's all he got to do.
Yeah, it's a tough spot for him.
But he was fine. They were +6 in his minutes. For the lack of bench production, for everybody getting all over these guys for sucking, Hauser +6, Brissett +7, Hauser +6 in 10 minutes, Brissett +7 in 14 minutes, Horford +7 in 25 minutes, Pritchard +8 in 13 minutes. There was a positive impact when the bench guys were on the floor. It wasn't as bad as everybody said. You're not getting the scoring from it, but you got what you needed from those guys when they were out there. And that was more than enough tonight. It wasn't like last game. They were perfectly fine in their roles. You'd like to get more. You want to have, it'd be nice to have, look, you had the luxury of having the 6th man of the year last year. You had Malcolm Brogdon coming in capable of dropping 25 off the bench. They clearly don't have that. You don't have your Quickly. You don't have your Brogdon. You don't have, a lot of things. So, they don't have that, but I thought they were fine tonight.
And they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. But they need to, again, develop a consistent style of play and impact. And guys have to figure out their roles and execute their roles with consistency. Because when you look at the Denver Nuggets, the reigning champions, I don't think that they didn't have a lot of great individual talent. They just had guys who had roles, and they did those roles their entire damn season. And when the playoffs rolled around, they just basically did the same thing they did for 82 games. And if you're the Celtics, that's kind of where you need to start trending as the season progresses, developing those habits that when the playoffs roll around, you're doing the same shit in the playoffs that you've been doing all regular season, which got you that great record. Right. That's the challenge for them.
That's exactly why Joe Mazzulla doesn't want to get ahead of himself, right? It's only been 2 games. He likes what he sees. I don't think he's even surprised at this point. He's impressed. He's at a point where he just wants to see consistency because he knows what this is like. He's been a head coach, and he had that first year, and he knows the ups and downs of a regular season. And yeah, I think that's a great point, Sherrod. That's spot on. It's got to be all the day's work. It's got to come naturally. And I don't think he's seeing this roster as like, okay, this is set here and this role is here. I think he knows which guys can have a chance to take down a role, right, or at least secure a role all season long. But I think there's so many options in this team that he wants to see who can carve out that role and stick to it all season long. Like you said, this Hauser, cement, a role that they can rely on. Is it Brissett? Is it something that we can always see every single night? He's got a few options here, but either way, there has to be some consistency coming off that bench. I do think that's a really important part of this team. The reliable pieces off the bench, guys who aren't named Al Horford. You know what I mean? Pritchard, Hauser, Brissett. Those are kind of the guys that we have in mind right now, and I think they all could take on a valuable role for this team.
Yep. All right. We're going to hear from JB. This is a Bobby Manning question to Jaylen Brown here about kind of coming on in the fourth quarter here.
Just being aggressive. That was it. I felt like I had some good looks that didn't go down, but stayed with it. I was able to come out and make some shots down the line. And just being aggressive, kind of finding your flow, but just being aggressive every time you touch the ball.
Was there anything you look back on from the first game that you adjusted to, or was it just Miami guarding you guys a different way that allowed you to free up?
They guarded us a different way. I was looking to get KP going. They had Kevin Love, he was showing, right? So they were trying to get back to him to take away his pick and pops and stuff because he puts a lot of pressure on that. So it was a different look from the last game. And each game is going to continue to be different. We just got to be able to make the right reads and come out and play basketball.
Meant to bring in our boy Bobby here, and Bobby, there you go. Jaylen Brown didn't start great, but the energy shifted.
Yeah, and that's what Jason just said.
It did.
Big reason Jaylen got the ball.
I see what you did there.
It did, though.
It was
his energy. Yeah.
Yeah, and some great plays in the mid-range in this game. I thought he couldn't, and many other Celtics in this game couldn't access the rim easily. A lot of missed layups, but also some great rim protection from Miami. They had some double big looks that really bothered them on the inside, and Brown had a couple misses in there early. But just some incredible plays by him late in this game. My favorite one, John, was when he picked up the dribble. Bam was in there trying to, smack the ball loose from him. Saw him coming, picked up the dribble, turned, and shot right over Lowry. He had mismatches on him for a lot of this game, whether it was Drew Smith, whether it was Lowry. I know Josue was saying, these guys are too small to guard him, and he took advantage of them with jump shots. And with some good finishes, he had an offensive rebound put back too. I love the way Jaylen responded in this game. We talked about him a lot over the last 2 games, John. Where does he find his looks? How big of a player can he be in this offense? And then he comes out and scores the second most points in this game against a tough defense. So the one thing I'll always say about him is he might be the best player on this team at beating tough defense. Obviously, he's a tough shot maker, but also a great finisher against some of these talented shot blockers. So they're going to need him in spots like this. There was a big stretch in the first half where they struggled to put the ball in the basket, and he broke it open. Obviously, Derrick White deserves a ton of credit for this game too, but I was super impressed. I thought the story of this game was how Brown bounced back from really a no-show in the fourth quarter of that opening night game.
Yeah, and then a rough-ish start to this one where just offensively he was out of rhythm. Shots were coming up short. He was his three-pointer looked off the mark, and he was a little sloppy with the ball with kind of careless turnovers, not even forced turnovers by the defense, and then completely turned it around. And yeah, you're right. That's one of the things Brown does. He's that kind of he can beat.
He's the unlocker. He
the tough defense, because if there's gonna be a slight knock on the Celtics, on the starting lineup, athletically, they're not superior athletically. I mean, you've got a 7'3" guy who is a unicorn, but you're not expecting him to be, the most athletic guy on the floor. Tatum, White, they're not superior athletes. Even Holiday, Brown is the Horford, certainly not. They're not the most athletic team there. So sometimes you do need Brown to just be physically better than the people around him to get those kind of tough buckets when things get ugly. And that's what he did a lot last year when Tatum would be running into doubles or tough defensive assignments. Jaylen was kind of better at just beating his man.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people talk. Go ahead, Josue.
No, I'm just going to say real quick, I think his defense would really triggers that. A lot of times last year when he couldn't find that rhythm, I don't want to say he checked out, but I feel like he would get so in his head that he would sort of just wait for the next possession instead of trying to lock down defensively and, get something that would get him going. Because obviously we know once he gets that open floor, he's off to the races and very few people can keep up with him. So I just think he's locked in more defensively, knowing that, okay, maybe this is not my quarter, maybe this is my half. But if I can get some stops, if I can get a couple layups going and get more involved in the offense, I can easily get myself, a few buckets, and all of a sudden I'll get a couple threes, and that's when the momentum shifts,
Yeah, and he's never been a big offensive rebounder, Josue, but he got involved in that area too in this game. I thought they all embraced and dominated in that area in a game where they really needed it. I mean, they would not have had a chance in this game, Sherrod, without the offensive rebounding they did throughout this game. Just dominance in that area. They overwhelmed Miami there.
And it wasn't just one guy either. And that's what we've seen in the past where, whenever they have those nights where they're doing a good job on the boards, particularly the offensive glass, it's usually one guy, but they had multiple guys making their presence felt. And the thing about Jaylen, this was just him simply utilizing the athleticism that he has in a way that we don't normally see it. I mean, Jaylen, I think Jaylen could be a very impactful offensive rebounder from that wing position simply because from an athleticism standpoint, he can jump higher and quicker than a lot of guys on the floor. Yeah. And so the more you start thinking about it, it's just like, well, why the hell isn't he a better offensive rebounder? It's not like he doesn't have the ability or skills to do that. It's a want to. It's not something that I think he wants to necessarily do a really great job at. But when they go back and look at the film, this might be the game where you're just like, well, you know what, Jaylen, I know you can do X, Y, Z, 1, 2, and 3, but damn, these offensive rebounds, we might want to have a conversation about you crashing the glass a little bit more, because that's something I think he could be very good at.
Well, you guys mentioned it earlier with kind of the contagious effort of Holiday and White. You do. I mean, I'm not going to say like they're pressuring Tatum and Brown into doing those types of things, because they do those things and they're capable of doing those things, just not necessarily always, because their focus is so often on scoring. And someone in the comments made a good point. Like, sometimes when you've got to be like the focal point of the offense, it takes a great deal of effort and focus and energy, and being able to put it on both sides is sometimes not something that you can necessarily do all the time. I'm not saying they're taking breaks here with this team, but there's not as much of a burden, so you can allow yourself to impact the game in different ways. But when you're seeing friggin' White and Holiday, I mean, the White block was ridiculous. He's out of bounds.
You know what it looks like, John?
He's out of bounds. And honestly, I think 17,000 people at the Garden and myself thought he was going to block it like the whole time. I'm like, oh God, here it comes. And he got there, like that's just banana land. And like Holiday had one too. And then they're just flying and grabbing boards.
John, it looks like White just cloned himself, and now there's two Whites running around out there. Shots, hitting threes, grabbing
before
rebounds.
You said that, I was gonna say it felt like he saw Drew and he was like, oh, I'm good. And it's like, no, you got another guy now. It's White. Like, or maybe you forgot, or maybe you, like you just said, Bobby, you thought that was White, but no, he's coming behind you and he's about to block you right now. That first one.
As much as I've wanted to see double big, as much as I wanted to see Horford in the starting lineup, it's been pretty
cool. Here we go,
watching
Bobby. Here we go.
It's been pretty cool. It's been pretty cool watching those guys play together.
You can apology cam your take on the double big, and then
Jimmy's gonna be pissed though.
And then deliver your Cornet eulogy right after that.
No, but I mean, tonight, I do think it probably would have been smart to start with that look, given the way it went with Porzingis here, especially in the first half. And even late, I kept turning to Josue, and it's like Bam is just killing him. And it didn't matter in the end, but there's a world where
weren't all the other Celtics killing all the other Heat? You understand that by bringing Horford in to do double big, that means either White or Holiday, who we just gushed over, aren't in the game, which means you don't get that. Like, you remove
It's a fine line. It was a close game,
You can't play
John.
6 guys. Like, that's the thing is, like, how much are you losing when you don't have those two in the game? They're insane, Bobby. They literally changed the tenor and tempo of the entire game when they're in there. They're such a pain in the ass defensive backcourt. They do everything right. Plus, also offensively, you took the ball out of Tatum's hands in the fourth quarter, which I thought was big because it didn't need to be in his hands there, because those guys were controlling a little bit more and making good reads and right decisions. Double big takes all that away just to stop one guy. I don't think you're looking at the trade-off.
Yeah, and I guess the advantage to the way it went is that the ball went toward Bam a little bit more than it did Jimmy, which was a good thing in this game. So there's a trade-off there for sure. But you were trailing for a lot of this game, and his pressure on the rim.
Just the first quarter, and when did things turn around?
The foul trouble on Porzingis was a big reason for that.
When did the game turn around, and who was on the floor?
Yeah, it was just small look, but
second quote. O'Shea came in and gave some bench energy, and then the starters for the back half of the second quarter went on a 16-4 run and flipped the script.
Yeah. They
just had a rough start. They had a rough start to the game. That's all that happened.
Yeah, you survived the foul trouble in this one. It's just I can see some games, some opponents where that's going to be an issue, and you're going to have to play matchups a little bit here. And Horford, to his credit, has played well coming off the bench. Even in this one, scoring 0 points, did some good things. And then, of course, had to close because Porzingis fouled out. But I do think you saw the challenges of going single big the way they did in this one. You're right, John. The offense stretched Miami out. There were too many options for the Heat to guard in this.
That's what you get. That's
But
what we're talking about is you're
Yeah.
worried about what you don't have with a certain lineup instead of worrying like all of the things that you do have and all the problems that you cause. And they cause so many problems with that lineup. It's hard to defend, and also just the defense and the energy and the pressure that they're putting on the guards, and just being able to switch and do all of the things. And you know, everybody can rebound, everybody can handle the ball, everybody can shoot. It's such a complete lineup. It's just they can do so much out there. I think Horford gums it up a little bit.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And you saw some slower moments from him tonight. I know you didn't like Tatum's passes to him that got turned over, but
Yeah, that was
he had a tough
Tatum's
time.
fault.
He had a
Yeah.
tough time corralling those in too.
But one was in no man's land. You throw a ball, you bounce past one to a big guy in the lane in traffic. That's got a 1 in 5 success
Tatum
rate.
had some bad turnovers tonight. He really did.
And then he had the other one. He flips it to him, and he's chasing it out of bounds. And he's got to go get it. And but those back-to-back possessions weren't great. He didn't put him in a good spot.
Yeah, for sure. And that's probably the one issue you still have coming out of this game. I think you turned the ball over more in this game than you did on opening night. You end with how many exactly here? I saw them get to 13, but it ended up being 15. So still too many turnovers. A lot of those were, or at least a handful of those were Brown forcing turnovers and then giving
Floppy.
it right back.
Yeah.
So those weren't killers, but there were a few moments here where Tatum, the screen and roll to Pritchard where he overthrew him, the Horford passes you mentioned, they weren't devastating like they ended up being in that Knicks game a lot of the times. But the sheer total here was still pretty high, and that's something that they're going to have to work out. But I do love the moments where they pass well in this game. There were some great looks. Brown, in particular, had Porzingis posting up at one point and saw that Love was cheating in and was probably going to pick off the pass. So he fired at, I think it was White in the corner, and hit him for a three. And then there was a great pass by Porzingis drawing two. And I've talked about how Porzingis hasn't really shown his passing skills yet. He's focused on scoring as he should and shooting. But he started to play in the post a little bit more in this game. His three wasn't really there. And then the Heat started doubling him, and he hit Brown for a big three in the second half. So as much as the Celtics turned the ball over in this one, you saw them make some really good reads here too. And, of course, they closed the game making some sensational reads between White, Brown, and Holiday. So what I love most about this game is that the Heat keyed in on Tatum and Porzingis, mostly took them away, and you ended up with White, Holiday, and Brown beating them. So there's a flexibility there offensively that beat the Heat.
I just think this new backcourt just changes things in a big way, especially with this matchup against the Heat, man. They don't have Gabe Vincent. They can't counter the shooting with Strus. Kyle Lowry's not getting any younger. And they just ran him up and down the floor, man. Hero found his offense, but did it even matter in this one? Like, especially
And what's great too,
Josue?
Josue? The reason that Holiday and White were so involved is that you can attack those Heat guards. So they're the ones in the screening action a lot of times, setting up Brown and Tatum to go after those guys. It's that old issue that the Heat had that made them go to zone a couple of years ago, is how vulnerable the Heroes and Robinsons and Lowrys of the world are. I mean, they have no answer for that right now.
Yeah. Holiday's my new Rob. I'm declaring it 2 days in.
That's your favorite?
Dude.
Not bad.
I've been a Holiday guy for years. I love everything about his game. I like Brad.
Started with a triple-double tonight, man. It's crazy.
Like Brad, I wanted him on the team 4 years ago. When he first got traded, I was like, and there was some conversation about it,
I remember you bringing him up during the Marcus Smart thing. Like, are you guys kidding me? You wouldn't. It's like, remember those conversations? Like,
and
you
even with
literally,
the Kemba, I remember the Kemba.
You literally look at every starting point guard in the NBA. You'd be like, Mike Conley, what do you guys think about that? Like, we were literally going through potential replacements, and I remember you saying, I think we all agree, like Drew Holiday. Yeah,
you were big when the Bucks did it. Yeah,
that's an upgrade.
I was big when the Bucks did it. I mean, I'm not saying it for the victory lap. I just like the player a ton, and now that he's here, the only fear was like, did he slow down? Did you get him too late? I mean, sure, it might happen at any point in time. It doesn't look like it. I mean, he's a friggin'. And I mean, he is just everywhere. He's
got
good.
you got to remember too, guys. He's got a chip on his shoulder, man. Like you have to, right? You get traded from the Bucks, and you're put into this great situation, this incredible franchise. Legacy means everything. Like I just think all of that, it's all relative. You know, it not only rejuvenates your spirit, but it obviously you're going to see that on the floor.
But yeah,
that little sequence where he scored from White on that cut, and then Brown stole the inbounds. It was all Celtics from that point on.
Yeah, it was good. It seemed like it was a fun game. We're close it up. Take the weekend off. We're back on what, Monday? Who they got Monday?
Wizards.
The Wiz.
Yeah, they're down in DC.
That could be a nice rest night.
For me, yeah. So
load management, here we come.
That's what I thought you meant, Bobby. I'm like, wait a minute, we're on air, guy.
That's a John Zannis load management night. Final thoughts, Sherrod? Anything to close here?
No, this was a great game. I mean, this is I think you're seeing glimpses of how potentially great this Celtics team can be, and the fact that it really is like playing, Russian roulette with this team as far as how they can beat you. I'm like you, John. I've been a big Jrue Holiday fan going all the way back to when before he got to Milwaukee, when he was in New Orleans. I felt in Philadelphia. I think he's been one of the most underrated point guards of his generation. Period. He does so many things that are all about winning. It's very little that he does that seems a self-promotional, me type thing. And for this team, they needed that. They needed a guy who was all about that. So. Yeah,
man, I just can't wait to see who's next, right? Who's going to lead this team to score? Who's going to have that game? I do believe it's going to be someone else. Like it's going to be almost every single night another guy.
It is remarkable that you had Tatum and Porzingis with 30 plus, and then two totally different guys lead you. Two different players with the top 2 point totals.
Especially against a team like the Washington Wizards, man, could be anyone. Shit, could be out. Like Sherrod said. Wouldn't surprise
me. Could be you, Josue. Could be you, Josue.
It could have been. It could have been years ago, Sherrod. But that's another story.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about White. He seems to be stepping into a new level of confidence here. You saw the pull-up three where he's screaming and yelling, and the blocks in this game, as we've talked about over and over again, were super impressive. And this is why you didn't want to. Oh, there's a message from Jay King.
Oh, Jay, hold on a second, Bobby.
What did you do to deserve that?
So there's a defensive poise, obviously, but an offensive involvement I just love from him right now. It's why I didn't want to see him go to the bench. As long as it wasn't him, I was fine with it being Horford. I was fine with it being Jrue. But he was not the guy you should have been sending to the bench. And his involvement so far and his success so far, super impressive and needs to continue. I mean, he's going to be an X factor on a lot of nights for this team. And John, that fact that they let him run the offense late was awesome.
That was one of my favorite things. It's, I don't want point Tatum ever.
Especially with the turnovers.
I didn't hate the idea at first, but now
I'll scream it from the mountaintops. No. So yes, I love that. I do not like. We've seen it for years. You got to lead, walk it up the floor. Entire offense stagnates. Bad shot. No.
There was some real pace to the late game offense, wasn't it?
Have these guys moving the ball. Working it around. Please, that's what you got it for. That's what one of the things I said about game one. I felt it looked like the same old Celtics. You turned Holiday into Marcus Smart, took the ball out of his hands, ran the same stuff. I liked it so much better tonight in that fourth quarter. And for a lot of the game, but not doing exactly that. And look how it came out. So,
Josue, can your final take be my guy?
No. Wait, what do you mean, your guy? Which one?
O'Shea.
We gave him flowers earlier.
Oh yeah, we gave him a shot. I mean, in my opinion, he was the one that set the tone, giving these guys extra possession. Coming off the bench. Before you hopped on, Bobby, I was saying how this whole lead by committee thing. The way I'm seeing it now is Joe Mazzulla is not quite sure which lineup's going to end the game most of the time because you don't know who's going to have that standout performance where you say, okay, man, you got to finish this one out. Not to say that he went into this not expecting O'Shea to be that kind of player, but to see it against a team like the Miami Heat in game two, I think it's relevant, for sure. And going
Bobby,
into what's up, Charles?
Yeah, Bobby. There's no way, Bobby, that we were going to get out of this show without hollering about O'Shea Brissett. Come on, there's no way I'm letting that happen.
Yeah,
you
we
know
got
that,
50% of our show is Syracuse alum, so we're dealing with that.
Come on now.
Yeah.
Come on, Bobby.
Yeah. I don't know if he's going to be the every night guy. He said obviously he wants to play every night, and we'll see if he can claim that role. Obviously, he's stepping into that Grant spot in some way here. The shooting was a struggle in the preseason. He didn't have to shoot tonight.
Yeah, but they don't need it though.
The rebounding strong, and this is a team that has struggled on the board so far.
He needs to shoot if it rotates to him and he's wide open standing behind.
Yeah, 3 and D. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. But to me, it's more about the defense and the rebounding.
Don't look for anything. Just be there and take the shot if you have it. But otherwise, that's not what he's there for. It's the other stuff, Josue. Yeah.
Right. This is a really good matchup for him too, because there wasn't like a fourth or fifth option on the Heat that was going to go after him often. Whoever he was covering,
they weren't even thinking about him, man.
He was probably covering Kevin Love, if I don't know off the top of my head, but it was a good move. And Joe said he was trying to get him in there after the first.
Yeah.
But he went to him earlier.
We're going to wrap. We're back Monday, taking on the Wiz. Thanks to shout out to Sherrod, Josue, Bobby, down at the Garden, of course, super producer Amit, heading off to Miami. He's not sleeping. He's going to Miami, 6 a.m. He and Taylor are hitting the road for a Dolphins game. So pray for Amit.
Yeah, we'll get him out of here quick.
Yeah, man. I don't think he's sleeping. I think his flight's coming up in a few hours.
I don't think he's sleeping.
I'm not feeling bad for Ahmed going to damn Miami.
Yeah, right. He'll be all right.
He's got to have enough juice to Miami when he's down there.
Power it up.
Like, what's the point of going down to Miami if he's going to sleep all day? So we got to, you got to get him.
He's too young to be having. No, hell no. He's good. He's good.
Yeah, I'm just running on fumes at this point. But we'll get him some rest.
Yeah. So again, thank you guys. Check us out. If you want Patriots Postgame Show, we'll jump on there. Taylor will break it down from Miami, along with me and whoever else we can wants to jump in there and talk about that game. So that should be fun for sure.
We got to practice tomorrow, so.
You got some more Celtics coverage. Check out, follow Bobby. Check out our YouTube channel, CLNSmedia.com. Follow all of our Twitter handles. And if you can, support our sponsors. If you're into this sort of thing and you want to get in on some action, why not check out FanDuel? 200 in bonus bets when you bet $5 after visiting FanDuel.com/Boston. Once again, FanDuel.com/Boston. Also, if you want to bet smarter, check out Odds Are. Go to Odds Are. That one. oddsr.com/Celtics. Get a 30-day free trial when you download the app. It's not a sports book. It helps you bet smarter. Once again, Celtics win the home opener, defeating Miami 119-111, not 119-11. That would have been some kind of record. That's the score we had posted earlier.
That would have been a hell of a game.
We're sorry about that typo, but you guys watch the game, They win. Derrick White, monster game. Jaylen Brown also. Terrific performance as well. Celtics take down the Heat. Revenge in Game 8, 119-111. We'll see you on Monday. Much more coverage throughout the weekend on CLNS Media, so make sure you check that out.